Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag College Show Week 2. I am your host, Andrew. And yes, this week I am joined by Alex, my co-host. He was absent for Week 1, but he is back for me for Week 2 to go through all the games. He's been a very busy man, started a new job, but he has been putting out a lot of content recently. You've been doing a lot of articles, writing. How are you happy now the season started?
I am happy now the season started. I'm sorry that I missed week one because week one was quite the build up to week one because it was quite an exciting week to talk about. And yeah, I've been trying to keep as busy as I can, putting out stuff where I can, so the odd bits of articles about college football, as and when I get time to write them up and get them out, because there's been some interesting things going on over the past week or so.
Well, as you said, Week 1 was an exciting one. So we're going to start off. We're going to go through those games that, if you listen to, I went through some very, very big games, some very odd scores. I always find people talk about NFL Week 1 being hard to bet on and things like that. College Week 1 is the hardest thing to predict ever because there's so many guys leave and go to the NFL and the transfer portal and everything like that. You just can't predict what these players are going to do, can you? It's so tough.
No, and there was a few. Well, I can think of one player in particular, or a few players that were playing this week, last week, and they did not do as well as I expected them to do, as is the college football sort of way.
We'll go straight into the big game. I started with it last week. It was Ohio State versus Texas. Ohio State winning 14-7, a very low scoring game. The two number one recruits at their position at quarterback, Arch Manning and Julian Sayin. How did you feel about this game? What's your thoughts? Should we just dive straight into the big topic of Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns? Do you want to? How did you?
Yeah.
A lot of hype about him. What was your thoughts?
There was a lot of hype, and he's obviously been billed as a generational talent. That term's being bandied around, but he was rubbish against Ohio State. He struggled a lot. I think he struggled with his footwork, with his mechanics, and I think he especially struggled with the defense he was seeing from Matt Patricia. I think he's brought with him a lot of sort of maybe knowledge from the pro game, and throwing that at a new starter, no matter how good he is, I think probably ruffled him quite a lot. And it was, I mean, I was disappointed because I was picking Texas to win that game, and then, God, they were nowhere near it. I mean, Ohio State didn't score a lot, but their defense was just phenomenal in that game. They completely shut down the Longhorns. But when you've got players like Caleb Downs, like the top defensive prospect on your side, and then you've got Patricia coming in, calling a very good game for you as your new defensive coordinator, and in a very hostile environment for a team with a young quarterback or an experienced quarterback to come in and play in. Really, I should have expected it, and I should have leaned towards Ohio State maybe. But yeah, I was hoping he would be better, Arch Manning, in that game. But there you go. Let's see how the rest of the season goes for him.
Well, Ohio got him at the right time, didn't they? For his first ever away game, he's never played outside of Texas, so this is his first away game. That's going to be really loud at Ohio. That's a big stadium to go to. The fans follow that team really, really well. And like you said, going up against Matt Patricia's defense, he's only ever properly played, hasn't played any massive teams, Arch hasn't. So to have all of these different defensive schemes thrown at you for the first time you've played, with the hype, with the adrenaline, with everything like that, I would personally say the fourth quarter, that last drive, I thought for the touchdown, I thought he threw some nice passes down the field, nice down the sideline. So there was progression from him. Just it started off really bad, and I think maybe the game got to him a bit. And I think, do you think that Steve Sarkisian was outplayed by Matt Patricia, and Steve Sarkisian didn't do enough for Arch, or do you think this is all on Arch that they weren't able to move the ball?
I think it's probably a bit of both. I'm unfortunately leaning more towards it being an Arch and his personal performance in terms of the way he managed himself. Like I said, he just seemed a bit lost at times, and because in his briefer appearances last season, sometimes he looked very competent, quite
Yeah.
calm, cool, and composed. I think you're probably right, actually, because he's got a huge weight of expectation on him. Like just carrying that Manning name, everyone expects him to do brilliantly from the off.
I mean, I've carried it my whole life,
Well, you
going up
have,
my
yeah.
name.
So I would,
I have to win things.
if you were playing quarterback for the Longhorns against Ohio State, I would have expected you to do a lot better than
Yeah.
Arch Manning.
Um,
But no,
I think my personal note on it is I wouldn't panic on the Arch Manning. I think I said last week, I think it'd be week 5, it'd be firing on all cylinders, and we back to be going, oh yeah, this is why there was a lot of hype on him. I think 2 years in college would be good for him. I don't think maybe his Heisman odds are out the window now. I don't think he's probably not in with the shot with it now. But we'll move on to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ryan Day had, like I say, he had a new starter at quarterback, lots of changes there. Played really, really well. I think a lot of people are saying, well, they only put up 14 points, but I think they didn't need to. I think Matt Patricia called a really, really safe game. Let's not make mistakes. Let our defense wear them out. They're going to get the results. And we'll just let Julian Sayin settle in nicely. We'll air it out a couple of times. And I thought it was a really, really good, solid performance from the team. How did you feel?
I agree with that. I think it wasn't spectacular. But it was solid. But yeah, they were playing against a team that also has a pretty good defense. So I mean, they're coming against the number 1 ranked team before the season. Obviously, Texas have dropped quite significantly down the rankings now after this game. But against a top opponent in the first game of the season for that big noon kickoff, I think it was a solid performance that cements them being capable to step up into the big moments and that expectations there. I mean, we'll see how they get on down the season, but they can only build on last season. They know how to win now in those big games, unless it's against Michigan, but we won't mention that. Yeah, and for a lot of people, they are now stepped up to that top spot to be the number 1 ranked team.
Do you think that's justified? Do you think this win over they were the 3rd seed going into the season, win over the number 1 seed? Do you think that is justified that they become the number 1 seed?
I don't know. I was tossing and turning with this one because I had Penn State still as my number 1 going into week 2. But I think it is justified in a way, as in terms of they've knocked off the top ranked opponent. They've knocked off a top team, whereas maybe with Penn State they've got the expectations. They do have the skills and the players to go all the way this season, but Ohio State have made the biggest statement earlier on. I think maybe I was looking more for when Penn State can prove that they're not, whereas Ohio State have already started to prove that they are the team that could be the best, sort of thing.
And then just before we move on to the next game, Texas slip into 7. Do you think that that's, again, a fair assessment for them? Do you think they should have slipped outside the top 10? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think, it's a reasonable slip down the rankings, because I think that again, they played
against the number 1 seed now. Yeah.
Well, the number 1 seed now, and at the time, the number 3 ranked opponent. So, and they didn't get blown out by them. They stuck it in there. So, in terms of, they could still stick it with lesser opponents. Their defense looked okay. It's just they didn't really need to sort out the offense.
We'll move on to the next big game that was played, and that was LSU versus Clemson, and the game ended 17-10 to LSU. I had Clemson winning this game. I thought they were one of the best rosters in college. I thought Cade Klubnik was a dark horse favorite for the Heisman. It was in Clemson. I just thought this was going to be a close game, which it was. But I expected a bit more from them. And then LSU have my number 1 ranked quarterback at their team. But I was very impressed with LSU's defense, which is going into the season was what the question marks were about, which it has been the previous years. LSU for you, what was your thoughts on this? Did you have them winning this game?
I think I initially expected Clemson to win this or to edge this. But yeah. And also Brian Kelly having the hoodoo of that record of not winning an opening game with LSU since he's been there. I thought that might loom large over him. But they really stepped up, didn't they? Nussmeier looks the absolute business.
He's great. Yeah.
He looks like he could be almost a pro-ready quarterback there, and the LSU defense, which was much maligned last year, has obviously made significant improvements because to hold Clemson and Cade Klubnik like they did, because he struggled that game, Klubnik, and he is a very, very good quarterback.
Klubnik struggled early last year. I remember we still had Adam on the show at the time, and I remember talking about Clemson and how much I liked Klubnik going into the year and how I thought it was good. And then they really struggled at the start of the year. And I remember Adam texting me saying, this Klubnik guy's rubbish. Why am I watching him? He's terrible. And then he ended the season really, really strong, and that's why we're all hyped again. So maybe it's just a slow start for the season. Maybe they don't play preseason games. It's just the camps and things like that. I know there's a bit of spring ball and stuff like that, but I think maybe that might play a factor into slow starts to the season for some of the quarterbacks. Getting your arm sort of going again properly in proper game format. So maybe that's the reason that. Any worries, any scares with Clemson, obviously not coming away with the win, or were you high on Clemson before the season started?
Yeah, I was expecting Clemson to come out top in the ACC. And I think I still probably am. Well, it's going to be a close run between them and Miami, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I think they're going to be up there because, I mean, again, the performance they put in against LSU was not a bad one. Again, it was, what was it, a 3-point difference. So yeah, I think they can iron out those wrinkles. And yeah, maybe have a similar run to what they did last year, because Clemson didn't look to be in it for at least the first few weeks at all in the ACC race. We weren't talking about them much, but they obviously came storming back towards the end of the season. And
well, it was all about Miami last year again, wasn't it? And then Clemson, we thought might make a bit of a drop off. They came back and did it well. Moved LSU to the 3rd seed. Now, you said you thought Penn State should be the number 1 seed. I've heard a lot of people say that this victory should put LSU at the number 1 seed. Do you think they've been slighted by being at number 3?
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I had them at number 3. Did I have them at number 3? I think I did, yeah. But yeah, I think if they can sustain it, I can't remember who LSU's playing this week. Obviously, not someone as tough as Clemson.
There's no tough games,
sorry?
There's no tough games really for anybody this week, is there?
No. But it's hard to argue that they can be the number 1 seed over Ohio State, who've still got an absolutely stacked roster and have knocked off the top seed. So we'll see. I think LSU they can. I mean, they made a big jump. I mean, they made a massive jump from where they were, because they were ranked within what they were about 17 or something like that. They were in the top 20, but now jumped right up to 3. So I think that's a significant enough jump. And then we just
got a bit of a rivalry game this week. They're playing Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
So
they should win that quite easily.
Yeah. On to the next game, which is one of the big shocks, well, the biggest shock I think of the whole week 1, and that was Florida State against Alabama Crimson Tide, absolutely destroying them. I don't think the score was 31-17 to Florida State, and I don't think the game was 31-17 close. If it wasn't for the muffed punt, then I don't think we would have 17 on Bama's side of the score. So absolutely solid performance from FSU, who would so poor last year. This is a big turnaround for them.
Absolutely is. Compared to what they were last season, they were rubbish. They were lost. They didn't have the guy at quarterback in DJ Uangalele. They appear to have a quarterback now in Thomas Castellanos who can talk the talk, and he walked the walk on Saturday. There's a lot of conversation around whether this is coming down to a culture thing with Alabama, who had a very, how do I want to say it, like the culture of expectation and performance and professionalism there under Nick Saban was very high. There's a lot of talk about supporters being unhappy with Kalen DeBoer and I think even the level of discipline there's going on there at Alabama at the moment. Whereas I think Norvell at Florida State has maintained that. I mean, last year was just, I think, a bit of an anomaly. It was a one-off. They just didn't have it together. Maybe they've used that as a motivational factor, coming with a bit of a chip on their shoulder.
They just took a bit of a swing and a miss on the quarterback, didn't they? And then it just spiraled from there. I think this year, like you said, they seem to have got that right. So that's good. How worried are you for Alabama this year? Losing to an unranked opponent again, fourth time for Kalen DeBoer already. I know we've seen the stats that Nick Saban only lost 4 in his whole time there, and he's already got 4 in 2 seasons. So are you worried? Is the panic meter sort of flickering for Alabama this season? Because they haven't got the easiest of schedules. Do you think they missed the playoffs bad? Do you think this organization's not going to be what it used to be and a powerhouse anymore going forward because of the NIL? Or where do you see Alabama for the rest of the year?
I think they're going to be like a team on the bubble for the season because, like you said, they have got they've got to play all 8 other SEC teams. They've got a get right game next week against ULM, but then Wisconsin, Georgia, got to play Vanderbilt again, who they slipped up against last year. Mizzou, Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma. They've scheduled themselves a nice little game at Eastern Illinois in the penultimate game, and then the clash against Auburn, and they're a team that are looking a bit tasty as well. So I think this could go either way for Alabama at the moment. I think there needs to be some significant improvements on the offense. I think everyone needs to seriously buy in with DeBoer and focus for the rest of the season.
Well, they really need to buy into him. What they're paying at $80 million, his contract is worth, and I know they've already come out and said they're struggling to get money together for NIL at all. So it's not as if you can sack him and then pay another $80 million to another head coach, and when you're already struggling. So I think they've got to commit to him, and they've got to try and work through this and get his ethos. And if it needs to change from what Saban was doing, then it needs to change now. But yeah, it's going to be tough for them. I think the fans are going to be really upset, and I think they miss out on the playoffs now.
Yeah, I think they're going to be right on the edge. They could, yeah, but the SEC is stacked at the moment in terms of how many ranked teams they got in the top 25. It's just, they will have to win out for the rest of the season, but play a lot better to find themselves even in that expanded playoff field.
And then the last game we're going to talk about before we move on to the actual week 2 fixtures is Miami versus Notre Dame. Ended 27-24 to Miami. It was Carson Beck moving from Georgia to Miami. I was unsure what we were going to get from Beck with his elbow injury. And I did say that I thought that Notre Dame were going to change their game plan and there would be more of a passing team than a run-first team with their change at quarterback with Carr now at the quarterback, which was correct. I just got the score wrong. How do you feel about Miami first off? This is a great victory for them. They looked good throughout the game against a tough Notre Dame defense as well. Do you think this is them kicking on and we should be speaking more about them this year?
I definitely think we should be looking at them and speaking about them this year. I think they look very good in that game. Carson Beck had a very good performance. I think he looked a lot calmer than he has done before in some of his games at Georgia. Maybe behind a better offensive line, but also that Miami defense was just a bit of a game wrecker with what's he called? Bain.
Yeah.
Was just tearing it up and making life very difficult for Carr. And I think the defense stepped up big when they needed to. And made sure that Notre Dame couldn't quite get back into it in time. Because the end of the game finished a bit messily, didn't it, for Notre Dame when they were couldn't quite get the final snap off either. But because I think of these time pressures and they're out of timeouts, but also that the defense was just so disruptive.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for Carson Beck being how many years he's already been in college. We saw a lot of freshman starters this year. We've already spoke about a couple of them already who we said looked a bit nervous, needed to settle into games. I think that experience that Carson Beck's got, he definitely looked mature, poised, and I think that just really, really has helped him in the opening game this week. So lots of props to him. I think people will be talking about him throughout the year, and hopefully he can rise his stock again for the draft. Notre Dame didn't use what is the best running back in college football really at all in this game. Are you shocked that they have leaned so heavy into the pass as they used the run so much last year?
Well, yeah. I mean, you predicted it, but no, because with Jeremiah Love, he's a very good running back, and they could have, I think, leaned a bit more on that just to get. Sorry, I know. Yeah, how many carries did he have? I can't remember if there was anything to do with any injury at all there, whether that was just because that defensive front was just stuffing it at the line the whole game. So
he had 10 carries for 33 yards. Not what you'd see him. I thought you'd see him up around the 100 mark. He needs to step up if that's what we're going to get from him, and they need to change. There's lots of teams that have been able to do it. So I think they need to get him involved a lot more going forward, and I think they should be fine. I think Carr looks good at times, so I think it might be a bit of nerves for him as well. I'm not worried too much about the Fighting Irish just yet either. I think it's only Bama I'm worried about from these teams that have lost.
Yeah, I mean they still look good in the game overall. They still look like they can be a contender this year.
So we'll move on to week 2. I was just scrolling through to get the odds for the first game. So the first game we were going to talk about, the big game. There's only one massive matchup. There's only one that's the top 20 matchup, and that is Michigan, Oklahoma. What's your thoughts on this one? Both teams look good week 1. Bryce Underwood looked decent, and Mateer looked great for Oklahoma. So what's your analysis on this one?
Oh, I think you're right that Michigan did look very good, and Bryce Underwood looks very promising as a freshman quarterback. But I am leaning more towards Oklahoma based on John Mateer, a quarterback, and he was very good last week, and he's proven himself to be a very solid quarterback. He was very good at Washington State last year, and he's come across to Oklahoma now and come across with the offensive coordinator he had at Washington State, Arbuckle, and he was the person who orchestrated that sort of breakout season last year with Washington State, and he's hopefully brought that across with him as well. So he has the experience, he has the skill set, and what it needs. I think that it will be a tough game for Michigan. I think it's going to be another close-ish. Well, I don't know how close. I think. What's the point spread on this one? At the
-5
moment?
and for
5. Yeah.
Oklahoma. So they think Oklahoma's going to win this one. I think Oklahoma's going to win this one. As you said, Mateer has got his old offensive coordinator, so he's not learning a new playbook. It's at home. And what I am concerned is with Michigan, we've just spoke about how hard it is as a freshman to go and play your first away fixture. And this is going to be Bryce Underwood's first away fixture in another noisy, big stadium. So I think Bryce Underwood played well. I don't think Michigan overall played amazing. So I think there might be some struggles this week for Michigan going against Oklahoma. And I think Oklahoma actually cover the -5. I can see them winning this by 7-10 quite comfortably. So I'm all on the Oklahoma side for this one. I think it's a bit too much hype on Michigan after their first game.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think
that also is coming from an Ohio State fan, so take that with a pinch of salt.
But no, I think I'd agree. I think just the experience there on the offense should be enough to see it through. But we'll see. Stranger things have happened and do happen.
Maybe in week one. But we move on to. Also, are you Oklahoma as well? You joining me on the bandwagon with
Oklahoma? Yeah. I'm going Oklahoma.
So game 2 is what I find is, I was talking to you about this while we were away in Dublin, is the Cyhawk rivalry, the Iowa versus Iowa State. We had the joy of seeing Iowa State already, who Rocco Beck looked great. They've already got 2 wins under their belt, going against what I think, they're the Iowa State first. They're the 16th ranked team in the country at the moment, against an Iowa team which I think is underrated. It's, for me, they're a team every single year I think are solid. I think their defense is always solid. Their O-line's always solid. They're always good. Like I said, they're always good in the trenches. No one puts points up against them. So I think this is a really interesting clash, especially with it being a rivalry as well. What's your breakdown on this game?
I think, yes, they're solid, and their defense is usually very good, and they're usually very good at punting. You get great punters come out of Iowa. But they haven't got a quarterback, and they never have a quarterback. They've got Gronowski, he looked a bit iffy, didn't he, last week compared to Iowa State. And now I think they're feeding themselves a bit. Rocco Becht, like I said, is edging himself into Heisman conversations. He's looked excellent. I mean, barring the first half in Dublin when with that wet ball, the second half game against Kansas State and last week was just very, very good quarterbacking. And yeah, I think he looks the business at the moment. And I think, well, you never know, because like they beat Iowa last year, and that was a surprise that they beat Iowa last year. Now they're coming in as the favourites, as a ranked team, who have expectations of being at the top or possibly even winning the Big 12 this year, whereas Iowa are still, I think, a middle of the pack sort of Big 10 team, which isn't to say that they should be taken lightly. And the game's in Iowa City, and this it isn't. No, it's in Ames. Oh God, I've completely forgotten if it's in Ames or Iowa City. Who's that home game for?
It's Iowa State's home game, isn't it?
So it's in Ames. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, so yeah, that's why they're going to win it.
Yeah, there was before we move on to the next one, you briefly mentioned his name there. Mark Gronowski moved from North Dakota State, wasn't it? North Dakota State? Obviously not a Division 1 team. Got 50 wins under his belt. Lots of hype about him when he moved. Very, very shaky first game. But do you think that's just nerves of moving up to the bigger level, or do you think we'll see more out of him from this game?
I don't know, because there was a lot of hype, and there was some. I mean, that I can see in Iowa putting out videos on social media about how hyped they were about the quarterback and the throws he was making. And the throws we saw in them were like, yeah, they're all right. They're good, but I don't know. I think he's all right. I think he could be a solid quarterback, but I don't think um, he's going to be spectacular.
Point spread on this one is Iowa State -3.5. I think, again, another team, I think they cover the spread on this one. I think, like I said, not many people put up big scores against Iowa. So I think maybe, it's held to a touchdown, maybe. But that's, again, 5 to 7 points I would take on Iowa State for this.
Yeah, and I think I would too. I think I agree with you on that one as well.
We'll move on.
Cyclones for the win. Yeah.
Yeah. But do you know what? I don't know whether you felt this last year, but obviously we went to watch K-State, Iowa State, and I've now feel a bit attached to following both of their stories. Now I've seen them. I don't know whether you're like that as well. Obviously, you saw last year's as well.
Yeah, I couldn't help having a soft spot for Georgia Tech last year after the upset win over FSU. So kept an eye on them, yeah. But I think as well, just from talking to all the fans over there and getting to know them a bit, it's hard not to because they're all so friendly and welcoming. That it's hard not to pull for their teams a bit. But yeah,
Well,
I'm all on the Cyclones bandwagon for this season.
are you off the K-State one? Are you abandoning
Oh
them
yeah,
already?
no, yeah, I'm off K-State. I think after their loss in Dublin and their less than convincing. It was a win, but it wasn't a convincing win against was it North Dakota? We played last week, but yeah.
So on to the next game, which I believe I've got down as Kansas versus Missouri. I hope that's one you've got next down on your list. I think this is a really interesting clash. It's not a ranked game, but Kansas with Jalen Daniels, if he's fully fit as well, could be in a Heisman conversation. I think he's that good when he's on form against a Mizzou team that everyone seems to think will do quite well. So no one's talking about it. I think it's one of the better matchups of the week.
Yeah. I mean, both teams look good so far. Kansas have got 2 wins under their belt. A very good win over Fresno State in week 0. And they looked solid again last week. Mizzou are always one of those teams that could be very good. I think that there's a lot personally for the 2 schools riding on this. That is because another big rivalry game that's got a lot of history. I was reading up on the history about it because this goes right back to like the American Civil War, where Kansas and Missouri hate each other. It's called the Border War, and there was a lot of stuff going on there. Why there's a lot of feelings for fans around this game. But yeah, I don't know why, but I quite like Kansas this season. I've got a bit of a feeling about them that they're going to do quite well. And like I say, Jaden Daniels is looking quite nice this season. Like he could be something a bit special.
When he's healthy, like I say, I think that's the problem he's had. But when he's healthy, he's as good as anyone. Mizzou are the 6.5 point favorites. I actually fancy Kansas to cover and potentially get a win in this one.
I'm going to agree again. I think because I fancy Kansas to win it. Maybe not by much, but I think.
No, yeah, it'd definitely be a close game. I think it's going to be a well-fought game. Two good teams to keep an eye on, and like I say, a game to keep an eye on as well. So, I'm shocked you agree with me on that one. I thought I was going to be on my own with that.
I like the Jayhawks at the moment. I think they're, I think they're looking all right, and I think they could be a team that pushes themselves up the table in the Big 12 this season. So yeah, I think they've got potential contender written on them, whereas I think Mizzou are a team that could be good, but again might be a bit more of a middle of the pack sort of team come the end of it.
Yeah, I think for me, there's probably only one other game I'd be keeping an eye on. I nearly added it into this conversation, and that would be Illinois versus Duke. I think there's a lot of people on the hype train with Illinois. I think Duke's not a pushover. So I think that's an interesting game to keep an eye on as well if you are a fan watching this week. Before we sign off, there was what I wanted to talk about this before I moved on to this week's games. And that was to give you a chance to talk to me about your USC Trojans and their 73-13 win in week 1. Very impressive. How are you feeling about them for the season?
I'm feeling all right. I mean, Lincoln Riley's very much on the hot seat at the moment, coming into his third year.
I think you've got to, with the amount of money he's getting paid there, can you afford to fire him?
I know, no, because he's got like a 70 million buyout or whatever it is, something ridiculous like that. But that doesn't mean that people aren't looking at him thinking, oh, we should be doing better with a coach who's paid so much for, with high expectations there. But saying that, they looked very good against, I know it was only Missouri State last week, but they did put up the most points out of anyone in week 1 with 73. Jaden Mayava looked very good at quarterback.
Looked good in the run game as well, didn't
you? As did the run game. As did Hussein Longstreet, our freshman quarterback, also looked very good when he came in relief and played very well. The quarterback room looks solid.
Quarterback room looks solid.
More than solid. It looked excellent.
Your running backs look good. I think your wide receivers.
That's my running back room. I meant to say, yeah, the wide receivers, yeah, with Mackay Lemon and bloody
Eli Sanders.
Oh God. So Eli Sanders is a running back. Oh God.
You've got
the other
Lake
Mackay Lemon and sorry,
Lake McRae.
Lake McRae, the tight end, had a very good game as well. But I don't know why I'm completely blanking on the second wide receiver after Jacoby bloody Lane. With Lane and Lemon are probably one of the top receiving duos possibly in FBS at the moment. And if they can really click with Mayava this season and get it going, then they could be a force to be reckoned with. And the defense is not to be sniffed at either. But yeah, high hopes, and they got another easy game. I say easy game against Georgia Southern this Saturday. So again, we're hoping to get a very high score.
You haven't really got a proper difficult game until you play Illinois, isn't it? So you could be going into that Illinois game possibly 4-0. So that could be.
So there we go.
It's going to be nice to follow them with you because they're a very. I don't know what you call it. That 1 week they're on a high, and then next week it can all come crashing down, and then back up again. They're a very emotional team to follow.
Yeah, they are, and I'm hoping the roller coaster is a bit smoother this season, and that they can, I don't know, just have a decent season and get 10 wins. They're not going to get 10 wins, but I want them to get 10 wins. Yeah.
Well, we'll be following them all year. As always. You've got lots of articles out. Follow us on social media. We've been putting loads of stuff out on Instagram and YouTube. Be loads going on for the college show. We're really going to try and push it this year. It's the best time to be involved in college football. So that's excellent. But till then, keep it with the franchise tag and see you again very soon.